Hello. I know it's been weeks, and that's why it feels kind of like I wouldn't even know where to start to catch you up to where I am now, and all the things that I've realized that are so worth sharing, but that are just sort of like part of me now, and I don't even know how to pick them apart to show them as a point of view. But maybe the most relevant thing that I've come to is embodying the realizations and understandings and knowings that it's all perfect. Like, there's nothing to fight against, to change, to wish was different. I mean, of course, when we're in suffering, we don't like it. But I've just been kind of shown and seen and realized that even my darkest shadows have been so fruitful for me. I wouldn't have not wanted to have this as my journey. I love it so much. And I'm remembering the pain when I say that, you know? I'm remembering the real heart-wrenching moments of being separated from those I love. Because how else would I know how much I love them? How would I know my depth? And my strength and how would I know myself if not for these experiences that allowed me to uncover who I am? And I mean, I know that it's appropriate to be very humble, but like, I really do feel like my heart is the most radiant, breathtaking, awe-inspiring freedom that I've experienced, you know? Like, and I wouldn't even know that, right? Like, if I was just always that, if I had never separated from that, I wouldn't know that. And just as a side note, I'm not saying that in any way that says, oh, I'm more special than you, because I believe when you are tapped into your heart, you know that about yourself too, you know? And I just feel grateful, just so grateful. I've been through, you know, some dark times and experienced some real, wow, that's pretty fucked up shit. And I've come up the other side just like with so much gratitude for it, because there are things I could never know about myself if I had not gone through those things. And to know myself is it's really nice. It feels nice. I like it. I really like it. And I don't need you to like it. Because I just like it. You know? Yeah, I've been like being brought back to memories from the past, like in particular this morning, oddly, a relationship that ended like 3 years ago, which I couldn't even feel anything about if I tried before today. For a while I was able to cry some of that out, today again. And in doing so, it was like letting that experience come full circle. It was like bringing it into the heart place and the understanding I have now about life, which is that it all served me. And then just kind of letting myself see the ways that it did serve me, once and for all. I'm going to just pause you while I blow my nose. And I was just remembering how much I actually loved that person and how excruciatingly painful it felt to be separated from them and to not have them return my love. And have just come around to the realization that I am that love. That love that I was using them as my object of attention and affection was all inside me. I am that. I am that. I am that bitch that will sacrifice, that will persevere, that will be resilient, that will overcome anything. And that was like the energy I was putting towards that relationship. But like, that's me. I have all that. I have all that easy all day long. And not just for that relationship, right? Like, maybe at that time, that relationship was what motivated me to be in that energy. But when I finally come around to the place where it's like, okay, at peace with that experience, those aspects don't leave with the experience being complete. Like, those aspects are alive and well in me because of that experience, because I got to know myself through that experience. And not just that, but like many experiences, right, that were trying and that I may have hated at the time, but that I find myself at peace with now. All right, let's pull some tickets. All right, let me talk about this. It just came to my mind, so I think I'm ready to talk about it. I joined the Patreon of Jess Puckett, the Chaos Witch, who I've mentioned on my channel before. She did a reading. She asked before she did the picks and the readings, as a general question for the group, are you a masochist? And maybe I would have just glossed right over that and not assumed that it was for me, except for when I was adding feeling energy to this bucket a few weeks ago. I went on some websites for emotional intelligence, and those websites, you'll often find like wheels with emotions on there. Ways to feelings rather. And so I used those wheels to help me think of feelings to put in the bucket, energies, And I remember seeing sadism and masochism on that wheel. And I remember specifically having the thought, I won't be dealing with any of those. And I didn't put them in. I put all the other feelings in. Like pretty much all the other. I can't think of any other ones that I skipped, at least on purpose. So when she said, "Are you a masochist?" I remembered that. And then I kind of looked at it, right? And I looked up the definition. The definition includes a description which says sexually turned on by having pain inflicted upon you. And I think that it can also include a different version, right? Where you just say, like, it's like finding comfort in being punished, right? So because and another clue was that I recently made the reference to me having not needing to be choked when I had sex anymore. And I was talking to that in reference of having healed it, that I was saying anything can be healed. And I remember when I said that, like I was prompted to say it, right, through my channel. But when I said it, I felt uncomfortable that I was saying that, right? And I know when something's fully healed that it's not uncomfortable. So there was another clue, right? Because being choked during sex would be masochism. And so it just kind of illuminated for me in that moment. I was like, oh shit. Like maybe I adapted that behavior, but maybe I didn't know that it was rooted in masochism. And then I was realizing, like, okay, so in actuality, as I studied it more and looked into it and felt into the energy of it and looked at it in my life in ways that it could have played out or whatever, I was realizing that it could actually have been a manifestation of the punishment and reward paradigm. And that actually the idea of being in pain and then telling yourself a story, which then you can actually live out, which is that you feel pleasure from that pain, could actually be looked at as an effective evolution out of corporal punishment. So we had corporal punishment in our parenting a couple generations ago. And then we realized that it was damaging to hit our kids. So we stopped. Most of us. Some people didn't stop. Some people turned it into verbal. Some people took up punishment and reward. Right? So, okay, we'll just punish them in a way that's more appropriate, that doesn't hit them. Or maybe we will spank them, but we'll also at least reward them, right? So punishment and reward is this part of this evolution of coming out of corporal punishment where we're actually at war, with our children. And as an adaptive measure, wouldn't it make sense that some of the children coming out of corporal punishment into freedom from that would actually adapt in such a way where they told themselves a story about that pain being pleasurable, or finding comfort in the fact that they don't get any other attention from their parents except for when they're being punished. So now this punishment actually serves as something both pleasurable or needed for survival and full of pain. Right? So you can kind of see pretty easily that this could translate for some people, right? Some people would definitely take up masochism as a way to deal with or evolve or adapt from corporal punishment. And I had never seen it before. Now, I, as a child, was spanked. I was like chased through the house, pants pulled down, belt on my ass, red welts. It was hysterics would be happening when this was going on. I mean, and if I ever thought about it before now, I would just be like, what could I possibly have been doing? I'm 5 years old, sweet, cute little Julie, curious as ever about life, and what could I have done to have a 6'4" man chase me through the house, pull down my pants, and beat me with a spoon? What could I have been doing? And when you look at it that way, it's like, oh shit, like he was literally grown up in an abusive home as well. And I know this from talking to my aunts and stuff. My father witnessed them being beaten a lot, even though he wasn't beaten like they were, or at least according to one aunt. I didn't talk to him about this, so I don't know if his recollection of it would have been different, but I imagine that he probably got some beatings too. Maybe not as much as the girls. But whatever it was, it definitely affected some things, like creating the ability for him to do that to a person. So in this, I was just like, oh, okay, so this is a sort of, I want to use the word perversion, but I don't mean in a sexual way. I just mean in there's a distortion here in my energy field that has to do with pleasure and pain, for sure. And I realized that it was playing out in a way where in the relationship that I stayed in, that was unhappy, that took me 6 years to let go of. It probably wouldn't have gone on so long if I wasn't finding pleasure in my pain, if I wasn't trying to be punishing myself, and sacrificing myself. And I think and then I just started to see that I had done this a lot in my life with different people. Just having no boundaries could be a way to do it, right? Just like letting somebody trample on me over and over and over again and not putting up the boundary. That can be seen as this masochism, where I'm like, I might be in denial of the fact that I'm doing it for a purpose, a hidden benefit. But there certainly is going to be a hidden benefit if I'm still doing it all that time. And the pain I was more verbal about. The pain I was more aware of. The pain was more appropriate for the situation. And the pain would put me in like a victim stance if I would express it, right? And then victims, here's another part of masochism, right? Victims are sort of delicate and worthy of care and things like that, So there are more hidden benefits to being put in pain. So even if it's not outright sexual pleasure attained from this pain, it's actually, is it 11:11 right now? 11:44 a.m. on 4/27/2023. So even though if it's not sexual pleasure, just any sort of comfort, any sort of like complacency and contentment with a situation like that would be under the scale of masochism, right? If we looked at it on a scale level. So because masochism was there and I found it, I was like, oh, okay, so let's look at sadism then. And I knew, and I had known this for a while, and I had not known what to do about it or what it was, or even looked at it straight in the face in myself. I had kind of looked at it as a side eye in myself. And this was this. So say I saw somebody on a video, maybe in my Facebook feed or something, do something mean to an animal. And then the animal like lashed back at them and they got hurt or something. And there would be part of me that would just kind of go, huh, got what you deserved. But then I would just like suppress that part of me. I would just be like, no, I don't like that part of me that would take any pleasure in somebody else's pain. Because I felt like the more appropriate response would be, that sucks. And, sucks for both of you. Right? Because like that seems more accurate to whom I know myself to be in my heart, which is just pure love. And so I knew there was something off there, but now I realize what it is. It's sadism. And my sadism was suppressed and denied in myself. And so I think, masochism and sadism are on the same kind of energy thing, I think. And so it's like, if you don't acknowledge your sadism, it can actually manifest as masochism. Because you take that, it's all hidden, so it's kind of under the surface, and it's like you ended up taking the pain upon yourself and being pleasured by it. Because you're not outwardly taking pleasure by inflicting pain. So, yikes, right? Like that was a big thing for me to uncover in myself. But also I realized that when it comes to being willing to go into my pain, that was a key ingredient to healing. That was a key ingredient to like escaping these patterns, right? Because the pain is in the feeling. And as long as I was willing to take the feeling within myself and not push it away, not deny it, be present with the pain, that's the out. That's where the 0 point is. That's the doorway out. So in actuality, the fact that I was experiencing masochism, which may well have been an adaptation of having corporal punishment, of being physically abused, where I was telling myself a story of pleasure around it, where my mind was confused, knowing that that was how I was, the only way I was going to get attention that I needed or wanted. Then actually that was the key ingredient to escaping me from the pain of many, many things. Not that thing in itself, until it was time, right? Until it was time, that thing was my driving force. Until it was in my awareness, that thing was the thing that drove me there. That was my vehicle, or part of the vehicle, right? Like, because I've said it probably in videos, even in a recent video, like, no, I said it when I was describing the process of healing to someone recently. I said, just pull it in. I said, when I have a feeling, I just pull it in. Like, I just take it in. Like, I don't push it away or wish it was different. I just, like, take my pain in. And if you look at that right there, that's masochism, right? I'm just saying, yeah, I want it. It's mine. And if you looked at some videos where I said, oh, I would like take my triggers as a gift, I would say, ooh, another one. And there's another clue, right? Like I was actually using my pain as a way to achieve pleasurable experiences as well, which it was, which it is, which there's no denying is a fact. But it's not just because I'm fucked up. It's because there is a 0-point gate that you can pass through. So when you look at it like that, it's like my darkest shadow was the transportation through which I achieved so much of the freedom for myself. And it's like, how can you complain about anything after knowing that? Like, you know, it's like I adapted and then used the adaptation to get me to where I needed to go, to be free of the suffering. And even a love of suffering could do that for me. Like, you know, because once I've integrated those things into my heart, you know, the pain is not there. It's not pressing on me. You can't trigger me there anymore. There's no lingering memories that are like, wow, you know, like I said, it was hard for me to access old pain about that relationship. And the way it happened was kind of interesting. And I just feel like the details that led me in is a long, drawn-out story that will bore you. But it was just like little prompts and through astrology and looking at a certain aspect in astrology and getting curious and looking at different charts with that for that aspect and finding that in one of the charts between me and the ex, and then realizing, oh, Mars square Saturn was in that relationship, and that was what was a lot of the tension and the fact that it felt like he was putting a wet blanket on me anytime we tried to have fun together. And that led to the feeling of the emotion and blah, blah, blah. And then realizing how great it was that I have that contrast and that I know who I am now. Like, I'm a person who doesn't want a fucking wet blanket on her. I'm a person who wants to have fun and wants to be childlike and wants to be free. And I've only ever, probably out of my masochism, I've only ever surrounded myself and been in relationship with boyfriends who were wet blankets to my fun, free, dumb. Like, oh, interesting. But doesn't that let me know how much I want it? Doesn't that let me know, like, also, like, that's a clue. It's like, okay, I was making myself suffer in that way. Just like I felt like I was suffering when my dad chased me through the house not to have fun, not to play tag, not because of hide and seek, but to slap a wet blanket on my ass. You know what I mean? Like, my fun was drowned out. And that's probably the stuff that did activate my dad to punish me in such a way. It was like me being careless or me spilling something or breaking something, you know, me being a child. That was what got him punished. And so the child part of me is ready to come out and play. And it makes sense for this project that I've been working on as well. And I think you'll see it going forward as I turn this leaf and allow myself to be free of all wet blankets. I mean, maybe there's like a time when a wet blanket will be appropriate. I won't rule everything out for any reason because I don't have the biggest picture view. But the view I have now says, let's frolic. Let's frolic. And also, it makes me think like being in a business where I'm assisting people get free of their pain, it just seems so... It's like, well, your pain's actually probably helping you just like it helped me. So, like, you probably got this. You probably got this. You know? We can still do readings and stuff, but I'm probably going to be focused on a lot of other things. And the readings will be like a fun hobby on the side kind of thing. I'm still going to do the events that I have planned this summer. So, if you're local, I hope to see you at one of those. And I hope you'll stay tuned for what else I'm doing, because eventually it'll show up on this channel and it'll be different and you might not expect it, and we might not vibe together anymore after that, and it's okay, because the time we had together was appropriate and right, and I appreciate it. And one thing is, just like in the examples that I just showed, how the things that I shared revealed parts of my puzzle to me. Like, if no one ever watched these videos, they would still be valuable for me to do for me, because I find things about myself when I say them. I feel the vibration of my voice and how it feels in me when I'm saying something. I know when I get a little snag in something, I know when I'm being a hypocrite. I know when I have room to grow in that. I know when I'm confused on something. I know when I'm very confident and I feel it to my core. You know what I mean? And that is something I see in my own expression when I reflect on myself. And oftentimes I can go back to readings that I've done and they'll be helpful for me. So I'm really glad if you resonate with it too. I love the idea of being a reflection for others. But I know that, whatever happens, this has been worthwhile for me to do it for me. I like what I've found out about myself through sharing. I'm just going to pull a few of these and see if there's anything else. New ways to feel about things. When you feel stuck, it just means you have some options. It means slow down a minute and look at what options there are. And also, being stuck gets you prepared to take the road of the option you choose. So being stuck, it doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong. It just means like you got to rest before the next leg of your journey, and you got to maybe shed a few things, right? Like I wanted to go forward with only the understanding of appreciation and gratitude for my past experiences. I didn't want to take in the baggage of like regret or sorrow. So I had to like stop and let that go before I could go forward in my journey. And that this can be a hard one in the culture we have, which is busy, 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 like for me, it took a while before I could ever rest without feeling guilty, because it was trained into me that you should be fucking busy. You should be productive. You should be doing something at all times so that you can be a useful person. And simply not true. Sometimes I'm a more useful person when I rest, when I back off, when I leave people to their own devices, It's okay to let go of certain things, and that might be hard, the hard part of making a decision to take a different option or make a choice to follow one option over another. There are going to be things to leave behind, and there is like maybe a mourning process, so taking the time out for that mourning process is important. It's important to clear up any misunderstanding about where you're at, right? Like, because you don't have to say you're stuck. You can say it's just a pause, and it's for a purpose. And that pause is also a chance to get in touch with the feral part of you, the inner urge, the primal urge, or the intuitive urge. Because these are the kind of things that we want to be driven by, right? Our inner impulse. We don't want to go with our programmed responses as much. Because, I mean, honestly, that's not going to get us where our soul's meant to go, right? It's easy to blame someone else. It's easy to blame someone else instead of taking it within ourselves. This is saying, like on that last relationship I was in, and I was saying, like, he put a wet blanket on me. And what that looked like was, like, every time we tried to have fun, like, he would kind of get into a bad mood. And he would, especially the more fun I was having, the less interested he was in the whole thing. And I could make that mean that he was doing that to me, but in reality, I was doing that to me. I was allowing myself to be in relationship with somebody who was like that. And I did it for a long time. Why? Because I wasn't ready to evolve. I wasn't ready to take back my responsibility for that. And, you know, maybe this ability to kind of tell ourselves a story about something until it becomes our reality, or until we move through something, is an actual, like, gift, a special talent, you know, because, like, we've got that saying, fake it till you make it. And there's split opinions on that, you know, do that or don't do that, right? But I say, do what works for you. If it doesn't work for you, don't do that. If it works for you, do that, right? Like, there might be times when it does work and times when it doesn't, but, like, if you can trick your mind into thinking something that benefits you to think it while you think it, great. You know? But that's a mind game, and you should be aware that that's what you're doing. And if your inner urge can be heard, I feel like that should override it. So if the tricking thing, right, like tricking your mind, comes from an inner urge, I think that's a good time to use it. And I think this whole message that's come out through the bucket is like this, it's like this message about there's so many moving parts, and basically everything is energy, right? And you can feel if you're in resonance with something, and you can feel if there's resistance, and you can feel if this is not the place for you. You can feel that you don't like being someplace, or you don't enjoy being around certain people, or you don't like doing something. And then you can feel when you do. Take note of these things, because it's not going to be just a straight line. It's not going to be this, and this. These are the rules. Follow them and you'll get there. It's going to be weaving, turning, flowing, gliding, allowing. It's going to be like music. Like you feel like you're flowing through life in a way that it's not always going to be path of least resistance, but it could be. It could be for you, right? But there may be a leg of your journey where you're going to, do a hard thing. I'm not saying that you'll never do something hard. But I am saying that, like, when you go to do the hard thing, I think if you need to do that hard thing, you'll know it. I think there'll be the thing that's driving you to do it. Won't be some sort of fear. It'll be love. And that's, I think, how you know the difference between if you are being motivated by this flow state, this heart-based place where you're harmonious with existence and the world, or if you are resisting and going against and kind of maybe learning something that's harder, and maybe trying to find out about yourself what tool you have that would actually let you move through that in the future in a more harmonious way, right? Because, like, these times when we get off into these loops that aren't really, like, conducive to harmony, I think it's helping us scrape off any misunderstandings about ourself that are keeping us from doing it in a way that's more harmonious, right? It's like I went into that relationship and I didn't know that I'm actually like fine, and I don't have to have somebody as a safety blanket under me in case I fuck up in life, right? Like that was one of the major purposes I wanted that person in my life, right? Because if you think about it, my Mars was square his Saturn. His Saturn was stable, structured, safe, protective. I wanted that. But now, come to find out, as his Saturn scraped off me, I can realize, like, oh, actually, I have the warrior spirit, and I can actually take up the responsibility of that myself. And I wouldn't have known that because I had a misunderstanding about how that works by watching my parents, right? My mom stayed in a relationship a long time with an abusive situation, and it was because she needed to feel that safety and structure type stuff, right? Or people stay in jobs that they hate because of that same reason, when, you know, there may be something that they could do that would actually make them feel more fulfilled and more harmonious with life and more an enjoyment of life. But maybe first they've got to go do that other thing that teaches them who they are, scrapes off who they're not. So, yeah. I feel like we can't get it wrong. I'm looking at this little book here, and it says LOL fall. LOL fail. Yeah, LOL fail. That part was sticking out. And that's like a little message too, right? It's like, laugh at those failures. Isn't that funny that I thought what I thought when I thought it? Isn't it funny that I stayed in the relationship 6 years acting like I was a prisoner to it when I was really just getting my wings? When I was just scraping off the gunk that made me forget I had wings. Yeah, I wouldn't trade it. All right, what do you think? How's it going for you? How do you feel about this perspective? Is it relevant for you?